Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today on the bench we have a watch from the legendary watch brand Mudu, and I use legendary in the truest sense of the word. Where other watch brands have proud histories, Mudu has a word on the street, a whisper from some geezer in an East End boozer. Can the stories be true? Let's get this battered villain running again, and while we do, let's try and separate fact from fiction.
And remember, no grassing.
Let's see what's occurring on the time grapher. Is running, but not at all well. No shilly-shallying his watch servicing time. We shall start as usual with automatic watches. Remove the rotor first, then out of the case, hands and dial off. The rotor isn't spinning freely, it's rubbing on the main plate. The Fulsa movements uses a little bolt and spring to hold the rotor to the axle. Let's take a look at the rotor jaw. It seems okay, the rotor pivot seems in good condition too. Can't see why the rotor is rubbing on the movement. We'll have a closer look at the rotor later. To be successful in watchmaking, it's important to not focus on what you're trying to achieve. The trick is to focus on what you don't want to do. We don't focus on removing the dial, we focus on not snapping the balance wheel pivots with our thumb. While we disassemble this watch, let us turn the page to a chapter seldom whispered in polite company, the curious case of Mudu watches and the furtive dance of watch importation. For what is more alluring to the human spirit than the thrill of forbidden possession? Imagine, if you will, a foggy night on a secluded dock. A lone figure shrouded in mystery and a cloak exchanges whispered codes and clandestine handshakes. Within their coat, the glint of Mudu watches. Picture the time when purchasing a new watch meant a visit to a dodgy drinking den rather than a high street jeweler. What the dickens was going on, I hear you ask, and that is a very, very good question. To make sense of this story, we have to provide some context. As the curtain fell on the Second World War, Great Britain, while victorious, found herself not merely impoverished, but spectacularly flat, broke-skint, her coffers drained in the noble crusade to liberate Europe from the clutches of tyranny and whatnot. New laws were enacted with austere measures aimed at arresting this national financial pickle, among which were rules to staunch the flow of currency beyond these shores. This included the levying of exorbitant duties upon imported luxuries, most notably timepieces, which were ensnared in this fiscal bear trap. Importing watches illegally bypassing the punitive import taxes provided profits that aroused the interest of not just the casual amateur smuggler, but organized gang. From the hidden corners of Swiss valleys to the bustling markets of East London, these timepieces become the currency of the adventurous, the bold, the rebellious, and not least the man known as Paddy Onions. More of him later. Now that history's tapestry has been unfurled, I can hear another question bursting forth. If all watches were equally targeted by import duties, and therefore all equally smuggleable, why are we picking on Mudu? The Mudu legend is found where all legends reside, in the intersection between tall tales, facts, and absolute nonsense. Before we get into the rest of the Mudu story, let's check in on the disassembly. Apart from the issue with the rotor, this movement is looking okay. It's a Fulsa 4002 movement. Fulsa movements are well made and early examples of automatic movements that employed reverser wheels to wind the movement when the rotor moved in either direction. We've let the power down and removed the balance and pallet fork so we can remove the train of wheels bridge now. And we shall lay out the screws to see if any are different. This movement employs 19 different types of screw, so we can't relax for a moment. The Felser movement has this interesting third wheel, which is actually two wheels located in the same axis. One wheel takes power from the second wheel and drives the small second-hand pinion. The other wheel in the stack is driven by the second-hand pinion and provides power to the fourth wheel. All in all, a very groovy design. Fourth wheel can exit the main plate and the escape wheel. And here is the second-hand pinion we mentioned earlier. The interesting design continues into the barrel bridge. There is not a separate ratchet wheel. That duty is carried out by the barrel lid. The crown wheel has to be located on the underside of the train of wheels bridge. One of the barrel bridge screws is also the click screw. It has a flatter head than the other barrel bridge screw. Remember, 19 different types to keep track of. Hope you're taking notes. And another to add to the apparent infinite list of click spring designs. Two screws to free the little center wheel bridge. These two are the same. The center wheel is the last part to complete the disassembly of the main plate. To continue the theme of oddness, to allow the no ratchet wheel design. Not only is the barrel lid the ratchet wheel, it's also the all-in-one barrel arbor too. You notice the 4 jewels on the barrel lid. They have an important job of allowing the watch manufacturer to print the words 25 jewels onto the dial instead of the normal 21. More jewels are always better. Next, we shall have a look at the automatic module. These screws are ridiculously small. The heads are just 0.8 millimeters wide. That's the problem with the metric system, 0.8. Doesn't sound too bad. But nobody would make a screw just 1/17,000th of a hundredth of an inch, would they? The automatic works has its own click. It needs this because the rotor winds the watch in very small increments. A simple and supremely clever design to use the rotor energy no matter which way it's spinning. And the crown wheel hidden away under the train of wheels bridge. Balance goes back into the movement for the run through the cleaning machine, but before that we'll remove the upper and lower jewels for separate cleaning and lubrication. A small drop of 9010, then check we've got a nice circle of oil. Perfect. The movement has been through cleaning. We can commence reassembly. The old mainspring looked completely pooped. A new spring will go a long way to improving this watch's performance. Braking grease allows the mainspring in an automatic movement to slip just the right amount as the watch is continuously wound. Remember, small dots are the answer. The spring can go in now. We'll take great care. A coiled mainspring holds the same energy as it takes to cook a goose. Focus on the outside coil and the rest will follow. And now the all-in-one barrel lid, arbor and ratchet wheel. Turn it against the direction of wind and it will plop into place. While we get on with this, let's talk some more about Mudu. In his book, Drug War, the secret history author Peter Walsh recounts claims made by a senior customs official that Patrick O'Neon smuggled large numbers of Mudu watches. Benson also tells that the brand Mudu was actually created by the smugglers as a play on the word moody London slang for dodgy or stolen goods. This sounds like a tall tale, but at least some of it is true. Patrick O'Neon, known as Paddy Onions, was indeed a free-spirited entrepreneur who was imprisoned for watch smuggling in 1963. It's also true that many Mudu watches were smuggled into Britain, and we can't find any evidence of legitimate sales of these watches through the usual jewelers. No adverts in old newspapers, for example, that are easily found for other lesser-known brands of the time. As to the brand Mudu, that was created in 1955 at the height of the watch smuggling period, and it was created by a Swiss company with no history of watchmaking. While it might seem unlikely it was created as a front for London smugglers, it could be true that the profits from smuggling led to close links between the brand and the smugglers. The trainer wheels are in place. Before we put the bridge on, we need to fit the crown wheel underneath. The trainer wheels are in place. Before we put the bridge on, we need to fit the crown wheel underneath. Gently does it. The bridge will drop into place when it's ready, and not a moment sooner. There we go. As usual, the escape wheel pivot is the last to find its home. Everything is spinning freely. We can start fixing things in place. We'll hold it down with the watchmaker's special stick until the first screw is in. Looking good. Bio bridge next, along with the click. Three cameras and I didn't capture fitting the click screw. The answer is obvious. I need more cameras. As you can see, we're fitting the pallet next, and that means it's time to place the world's most expensive grease on a stupidly small target. Balance wheel back in and again, this time to confirm the work we've done so far is up to snuff, and we'll lubricate the rest of the trainer wheel. Don't need to put this onto the time grapher to see how much better this is running already. Balance wheel is out, and we'll take the opportunity to fit the setting lever. If not done as the first part fitted, this is also a good time to do it, with the balance wheel out. Now lots of little dots of grease and oil in the usual places. Getting the stem ready. Winding pinion has a little grease where it rubs on the main plates. Clutch can go in too, and now the stem. Intermediate wheel is plopped into position. Never hurts to get the cannon pinion in early, and certainly before the minute wheel is fitted. Minute wheel and yoke are at the top of the list, which means next it's her yoke spring, my old friend. Happily this one surrendered without a fight. Setting lever finds its position with a satisfying click. Now the time has come for some honesty. Mistakes are about to be made. Working on a constant stream of different movements, it can be hard to remember the exact order of events. Fitting the calendar ring now is what a steely-eyed Felser 4002 professional would call a schoolboy error. Let's see how long it is before it becomes apparent. This reduction wheel drives the calendar wheel one rotation every 24 hours. Once I fit these retaining plates, the calendar wheel can't be removed. The hole is getting deeper. Now the calendar jumper, just need to slide it into the slot that's bloody well blocked by the bloody calendar wheel. Let's do this quickly. There we go, and calendar wheel back on. Little dot of grease where the spring rubs, and then keep calm while fitting the spring. This cover plate is the last part for this side of the movement, but before we turn over we shall lubricate the calendar wheel. Every fifth tooth gets another spot of grease. What's next? That's right, the automatic module, and its very, very small screws. And another spring. We've had a pretty good run of springs playing nicely, and this one is no different. And back into the watch. A slight downward pressure while slowly winding the movement helps everything engage correctly before we screw the module into place. Balance wheel is in for the final time. Still looks like it's running very well. The crystal is cracked and needs replacing. And we need to sort out the rotor too. Remember, it was rubbing on with movement. Not sure if this is oxidized lead or something else on the rim, but whatever it is, it's coming off. That's better. It is not sticking out from the bottom of the rotor anymore. Ice creams. The rotor is rotating. Excellent. And there we have it. This watch might have had a wild youth and not always stayed on the right side of the law, but look at it now, an indubitably distinguished gentleman and no mistake governor. And of course the obligatory check on the time grapher. Happy to say at least some of its lost youth has been rediscovered. If you would like your watch to be serviced or repaired, including a free video showing its inner workings and the work done, check out the link to the Gentleman's Watch Services website in the description. Right, that's it, as you were.